just affecting me personally, and it's making me think about the next generation of artists. Removing culture from these areas kind of creates a void. I definitely think that there's more that could be done on the side of the government to protect the rights and the IP of artists.
So all these years on, have you actually been to Scunthorpe?
I haven't been, but there's currently a petition.
Well, Tinie, let's talk about your album first. You've described this new album as a celebration of nightlife as a cultural force.
Yes.
How did UK nightlife inspire you to write these new songs?
So UK nightlife was essentially my rite of passage as an artist. It's definitely one of the avenues that helped me to break through as an artist. Just being in front of audiences, connecting with them, especially when my music wasn't known so much, so winning them over via performances. When I look back on the early stages of my career, I pretty much went to every grassroots music venue in the country, sometimes performed in front of 100 people, sometimes 10. But all of these experiences definitely added to me as an artist, helped me to get thicker skin, built my confidence. So the fact that we are now in a position where this year we've lost 30 of these grassroots music venues today, it's just affecting me personally, and it's making me think about the next generation of artists and the fact that if they don't have these platforms, it's already super difficult to break through as an emerging talent. This is just going to make it that much harder.
And you've talked there about how much it means to you and lots of other artists too. Yeah. Just sum it up. You had that figure there, but has it changed an awful lot in the decades since you've been making music? Has it got a lot worse?
Yeah, so since the pandemic, I think on average we're losing about 3 of these grassroots music venues a month. And I guess the stats are saying that by 2029 there'll be virtually like none left in the country. As it stands, I think there's around 800 up and down the country.
And for you personally,
yeah,
clubs, places that you played at, that you did gigs at when you were younger, when you were coming up, do they still exist? Have those places, you were born in London, have they gone? Have they...
No, a lot of them are non-existent. Some of them have just been recently rebought. So, for example, XOYO in East London has just been taken over by new management. Stratford Rex was a club that, when I was emerging from the grime scene, they were one of the only venues in London that would allow for a grime rave to happen. That went under recently, but again, I was pleased to see on social media that someone's bought it, I think over the last 3 months, and taken it over. So, in short, a load of those venues have gone, but I'm slowly starting to see 1 or 2 of them come back.
And Newsnight's got some figures exclusively around nightclubs.
Yes.
That nightclub numbers have fallen 36% since 2020. Does that chime with what you're hearing?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I understand that people's behavioural habits are changing as well. You know, I understand that society evolves. You know, Generation Z, Generation A, they're a lot more health conscious. You know, we see things like paddle taking over, run clubs are all the rage at the moment. And I'm, you know, definitely prone to participate in 1 or 2 of these things. However,
you play paddle?
I do, but I keep running into the glass.
Not in that outfit, probably.
Not in this outfit, yeah. I need to figure out my paddle game a bit more. But when I think about this problem that's happening as an artist, and I think about the music industry itself, and I think about platforms that we need to amplify new artists, promote new artists, that's where I see a real problem. I have no issue with the fact that people's behavioural habits have changed. People want to be healthier.
Yeah, because we hear that young people are drinking less, for example. I mean, maybe they just aren't spending enough money anymore because they don't want to drink, and that doesn't sustain the industry, or maybe they're less enthusiastic maybe about going to a club because they're not drinking.
Yeah, most definitely, it's understandable, but I think people tend to associate drinking with clubbing, but the 2 things don't have to go hand in hand. You can kind of be teetotal and still go out and have a great time. And if we are centering this around artists, if you're going to see an artist, on average, to buy a ticket for one of these gigs at these grassroots music venues is about 12 quid. So if you're going to see an artist, you can have a great time with a soda, do you get what I mean? A bottle of water or something or the other. You don't have to necessarily drink. Because
what does it mean for the music scene? I mean, more than half of grassroots music venues in the UK make no profit.
Yes. Yeah, so about 53% of grassroots music venues saw no profit last year. grassroots music venues on a whole are generating just over $500 million to the UK economy annually. So, you know, it's definitely something to be looked at. But if they're generating no profit, it means that a lot of them are struggling to stay open, which means that they eventually either close down or someone will put in a bid, typically a property developer will, you know, get rid of this club or this venue and then put up a block of flats, which is great, you know, and tackling another problem. But I think removing culture from these areas kind of creates a void in these areas and kind of stagnates the areas somewhat. And I think what's always been amazing to me as a Brit is the diversity, the eclecticism in music as well. The fact that you go to Bristol, there's a different scene. You go to London, you go up to Sheffield, you go up to Manchester, different scenes, different trends, different fashions. So I think if we lose all of these venues, essentially, we're going to start to see some of that disappear as well.
And you run a record label as well. What does this mean for artists, for people scouting for new talent?
I think it just puts more focus and more attention on social media. However, when I think about social media for the younger generation, even though it's a tool that has been able to transform many people's lives, there's also a responsibility that we have to have in regards to like screen time. You know, we all watched Adolescence and we've seen what can happen when it goes horribly wrong. So I think as someone who's running a record label, it just puts more pressure on the artist to be on social media and to promote themselves via social media, and that's an endless thing, you know.
So losing these venues is shaping the kind of music that we might all be hearing in the future?
Pretty much, yes.
And is that all bad?
I don't necessarily think it's like good or bad. I think it's just a change. However, and things have to change, and I'm aware of that. However, just the essential need for a venue where an artist maybe hasn't got that many fans yet, hasn't got that many followers, is relatively new, maybe has a guitar, maybe is rolling around with a DJ, and they want to showcase themselves, they want to showcase their talent. They can't get into the O2 because they're not, you know, they're not quite there in their career yet. They can't do the big arenas. They can't, you know, be Harry Styles and do the Wembley Stadium 8 times, which is phenomenal, by the way, incredible. They need these venues. They need these venues to perform. And also because of algorithms, you know, if you're into an artist or a sort of scene or genre, you're only going to see what the algorithm shows you. And so it's very difficult. My algorithm is going to be entirely different to your algorithm. And it's very difficult for you to break out of the algorithm. Whereas if you're performing in a grassroots music venue, for example, you're third on the bill, everyone's come to see the headline act, they've paid £12 for their ticket, and they happen to stumble across you because they came in early, you've blown them away with your performance, you've organically gained a new fan, which is, you know, priceless.
We've got a new Prime Minister who says he loves live music, he's into pubs and clubs. We've even seen him behind the decks.
Yes, Andy, yeah.
Andy, indeed. Does that make you more hopeful about the future in this regard?
I guess one can only be more hopeful, of course, when there's change. However, I do think as much as there are things that government can do, I saw recently that in Berlin, for example, they got UNESCO to basically protect their techno scene. So now it's kind of like a protected heritage site. And when I think about, you know, back in the day, you know, like the stories I've heard of the haciendas and, you know, places like that, these essentially are institutions where loads of seminal artists, DJs have broken and gone on to take over the whole world. So I wonder if there's a similar approach that we could take to some of our nightlife. However,
would you like to see that for London clubs? Which ones would it be?
I think that would be amazing. And I think it would be down to the public to decide, you know. But I think, you know, away from politics, it's more of a call to action for, you know, the man on the street, the woman on the street. You know, if you love music, if you love culture, and you have a grassroots music venue in your local area, go and support it. You know, you do that on a weekend. Go and see some new artists, spend 12 quid, and keep these venues going.
And the government has announced this 20% cut to business rates for pubs and live music venues.
Yes,
I mean, nightclubs aren't included, but that is an indication, isn't it, that the government is listening?
It's a good start, absolutely.
So going in the right direction.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I wondered, I mean, it's interesting, you know, obviously you're here to support nightclubs and music venues. People will know you also present Channel 4's Extraordinary Extensions.
I do indeed.
One of the big issues when it comes to nightclub licensing is that people who live nearby complain about the noise.
Yeah.
So come on, Tinie, give us a lowdown. In that discussion, which side are you on? Should people put up with a bit of noise if they live near a club, or are you entitled to a bit of peace and quiet in your new extension?
I like what you've done there. I mean, everyone's in different stages of their lives, right? And, you know, when I was in my early 20s, I was living in East London. It was fun, it was exciting. There was noise pollution everywhere. I didn't mind it. Now, maybe I feel a little bit different. So I guess it ultimately boils down to where you're at in your life, which is totally understandable. However, as someone who's just a fan of culture in general, I think it's nice to have a bit of energy in the area that you live in. I think it's nice to see, you know, sometimes I might drive past a music venue and you see the queue of like young people lining up, they're all excited. We've all been there, you know, so I think to get to a certain stage in your life where you almost start to be a bit of a party pooper.
So you got sympathy for both sides?
Yeah, I've got sympathy for both sides. You should be able to enjoy the comfort of your own home and peace and quiet, but at the same time, in your local area, there should be able to be, you know, cultural things that are happening that are, I guess, progressing the lives of others, you know.
I never speak to creative people these days without coming around to talking to them about AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
I wondered from your perspective, I mean, did you use AI in the new album? What's your view on it?
Yeah, so I haven't used AI in the audio, on the audio side of things, but in terms of like content and creating content and even just helping us to organize things, helping us to kind of formalize things, AI has been quite useful.
What do you mean when you say creating content? It's not writing your lyrics.
So no, it's not writing my lyrics. It's not involved in the audio recording process in any way, but let's say we make a visualizer that we're going to put on social media that's sort of like a music video. We may use AI to kind of doctor it up a little bit. So I guess my take on AI is it's a useful tool. It's definitely, as someone who's on the board for the Ivor Novellos and is a songwriter, I can empathize with the idea that it's essentially a large language model that's basically scooped up everything from the internet, including my work as well.
And how do you feel about that?
I mean, I definitely think that there's more that could be done on the side of the government to protect the rights and the IP of artists. I think mainly the record labels will benefit from that, but if you're an independent artist like I am currently, I think, you know, finding a way to sort of protect our image rights, protect our music rights from these large language models, that means that we maybe get remunerated or they ask for permission every time it gets used. I think that would be amazing. But I also, with another side of my brain, believe that it's kind of already happened now. So to kind of claw it all back and I guess get things in place is going to be super difficult.
And what do you think about Spotify? Today they've announced plans for a new label for AI-generated music. So to make clear this is made by AI. What do you think about that? Is it the right way to go?
I think it's definitely great to distinguish AI music from, I guess, human-made music. I think that's a great start. I think also Spotify and the other DSPs need to look at being able to compensate and remunerate artists even more for their work than they currently are, because as it stands, for one stream, you're getting $0.003. And so even if you're getting 1 million streams, which sounds quite significant, and only the top 10% of artists ever get like 1 million streams, you're seeing about 15 grand a year. So less than minimum wage. And so I think
much harder to make money out of music now.
Way harder to make money. So, and I think AI, you know, AI is going to make it even harder. So I think 100,000 songs get uploaded to Spotify every single day. A lion's share of that now is AI. It's hard to distinguish the two. So not only should they create a separation, which they have done, but at the same time, they should also say, for the human artists, we're going to, you know, tweak these numbers slightly, which they very easily could.
And you haven't released an album for nearly 10 years.
I haven't, no.
Why and why now?
So I kind of took a hiatus. I got to a certain point in my career. I'd ticked off a load of things I wanted to do. And I wanted to just like settle down. I wanted to settle down. I wanted to have kids.
And you get a sense of that in the album.
Yeah, and I wanted to understand the business that I was in a little bit more, you know. So I kind of went into the background a little bit. I set up a publishing company, started doing some other management and things like that. And it was a great time.
And everyone will remember Pass Out, your #1 Brit-winning single, with the lyric, I've been to Southampton, but I've never been to Scunthorpe.
Yeah, the unofficial national anthem, yeah.
They say hello, they say hola, and they say bonjour. I'm mad I never caught a flight on a Concorde. I've been Southampton, but I've never been to Scunthorpe. I'm freaking crazy with the kids, call me John Claude.
So all these years on, have you actually been to Scunthorpe?
I haven't been, but there's currently a petition going. So there's currently a little campaign that we're doing. A chap called Ben reached out to me from Scunthorpe and he said, I've seen that you've announced your tour dates. No Scunthorpe, what's going on?
Will you give the people what they want?
I think this is the time. So I've said, I'm more than excited to come to Scunthorpe. I'm happy to add that date to my tour, but we need a certain amount of pre-saves on the new album. If we can achieve that, I will just like that, click of a finger, add a Scunthorpe date, and we'll see you there in November or December.
Come on, Scunthorpe music venues, contact Tinie Tempah and his people.
Let's do it, and get the mayor out for me as well.
Absolutely. Tinie Tempah, thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me.